It's here. It's finally here. Anyway, I am just so excited to be unboxing this. This is one of the largest CoreXY multicolor printers on the market today. I've just been following it for so long, watching other people get the joy of unboxing this, and I am just so happy that it's finally here. Today, I'm gonna share with you the unboxing and setup process, and we're also gonna go ahead and do a deep dive. There are certain things that I've heard other people talk about on Z-banding and other kind of issues that they had. We're gonna actually explore that in depth today, see if it's actually even happening anymore. Maybe it's fixed, who knows? But we're gonna find out all of this today, right after this.
Welcome to the show that sets your mind free. Tech and gadgets, three geese to thrive. Captain Creativity, honesty, insight to regularity. With David's guiding light, invention, spark, and take their flight.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of Captain Creativity. I am your host, David Merrill. Next to me is the K2 Plus combo. This is one of the largest CoreXY printers with multicolor filament capability on the market today, one of the largest. It sports a 350 by 350 by 350 build size, has an active heating chamber. The CFS that they have, you can get up to 4 of them for 16 colors. Dual AI cameras to ensure perfection on your prints, which we're going to see if that's actually the case, and really a lot more. I'll go over them as we're doing the unboxing today. But anyway, let's get to it. Let's start unboxing it. So first of all, do not lift this on your own. We already know Uncle Jesse pulled out his back when he tried to lift this on his own. Don't do that. Try to get another person to lift it up. We'll first start off by just removing these little white pieces that keep the top box from the bottom box. So we're gonna just go ahead and remove those. So once all of those are removed, you have 2 handles over here, and you should be able to slide this right off. All right, so packed really nicely. Okay, uncovered the first thing, the manual. Over here on the side is the lid that goes on the top. Now what I'm gonna do is just kind of lift it over this piece here. Okay, so as you can see over here, there is a toolkit that comes with the unit. Has a lot of goodies in there, which we're gonna need when we're trying to assemble a couple components, but also a lot of maintenance tools in here. Beautiful packaging, beautiful casing. We also have up here some filament swatch. So these are, similar to that of what we've seen Bambu Labs do, which I think is a great idea. Kind of just shows you all the different types of colors you can get with their Creality filament. Very cool. We have the screen up here, so we'll take the screen. We'll also take out some components for assembly, all right? This is the mounting bracket for the LCD, for the touchscreen. Here's some screws for one of the assemblies. Okay, this is the kind of like, I wouldn't call it I don't know if it's considered a hub, but this is where all the 4 filaments come in and then go into the machine. So we're gonna put that to the side. This is a spool holder that we can actually use in conjunction. It doesn't have to be an either or solution like we've seen on a lot of other printers. And then over here, we have some other cables for the CFS as well as PTFE tubing. So once that's all removed, we are going to take that out, and lo and behold, we end up getting some filament. Wow, that's pretty great. All right, so we have red. We'll put that to the side. We'll take out another one. They give us blue, red, blue, great. And we'll keep removing stuff from the top. All right, and now what you'll see here is the CFS. So they put the CFS in. So I'm actually gonna see if I can remove this from the front, not from the top. I'd rather just not bump into the extruder over here. Okay, so take a look over here. We're gonna go ahead and just remove the tape up here. Wow. So yeah, so this is what people were saying with the hinges. They do open and close really smoothly. I could definitely see, I mean, people joke that like, oh, well, you know, what happened with Uncle Jesse won't happen again because this won't, you know, when it flips open, it doesn't like kind of bang against the frame. So, but it's very nice. Now this bracket is for transportation only. So this is where we're going to have to unscrew here and here to take this out. And yeah, there's a couple of places here that we're going to have to remove the screws on. And here we go. Okay. All right, there comes the bracket. So over here, we're gonna go ahead and take out the CFS. This will be a little bit, make it a little bit easier to get to some of the screws that are on the bottom here and here. So we're just gonna go ahead. Now that the top brace is removed, we should be able to kind of take it out like so. Yep, perfect. Okay, we're gonna remove some more foam. Okay, so as you can see over here, we also have some more filament. So we also have a white and we have a black. So red, white, and blue and black. Nice colors, love them. So as I had mentioned, this bracket over here has to be removed. There are 2 screws down over here and 2 screws over here. But there's also 4 more screws at each of the 4 corners of the bed. There's one over here, one over there, marked by these yellow stickers. So we're gonna have to remove those as well. Okay, so now on the back side, you can see over here, you gotta tear off the sticker before use. So these are just kind of holding on the plate to the filters. So if you open up these doors, you can see that there's a filter in there. It's already pre-installed. So this is, just want to remove that. Okay, there's the poop chute over there. Beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to show you that there are a few more rods that are left to be taken out. And you can see them right over here. There are 2 rods here. And we need to pull these off, just like that. Just be nice and careful with it. And then on the other side, the same idea. We're just going to do the same thing. Now everything is free. So next we're going to install the mounting bracket for the touch screen. And as you can see, there is a right way and a wrong way to orient it. You'll notice there's a little notch down over here, and this is going to be on the bottom side. So over here, it came with 4 screws. We're going to use the same Allen wrench that we had before. I kind of like to put them in a little bit like this first, just to kind of line them up and go ahead, screw it in. Okay, great. So that's done now. Now you're going to go ahead and lift this piece off, and that is going to have the ribbon. And now what we're going to do is take the ribbon and send it through the hub, through the bracket, as you can see over here. We're going to pass it through. Okay, and then once it's through, it's time for you to connect your touch screen. All right, so now it's time to pop in the touch screen. So what we're gonna end up doing is just kind of connecting it just like this. And now what we could do is kind of push it back in. And there are these notches that once you kind of bring it in and then you push it over, you push it back and then over to the left. And as you'll notice over here, it's going to say, please connect to the internet to update the firmware before printing. And from my understanding, we also want to do this in terms of updating it before even calibrating, from what I understand. And I think that makes a lot of sense most of the time, because some of those firmware updates can absolutely have a bearing on your calibration. Okay, so the next step is for us to install the spool holder. And what we do is we remove these 2 screws over here, and it goes on just like that. And what's really nice about this is the fact that you can actually have both. I know some systems are gonna tell you to choose between one or the other. but you can actually have both. Not that they could both operate simultaneously, as far as I know that they can't, but the fact that you could have them both there is great in case you're going to want to put on a bigger roll of filament, like a 2 kilogram or 3 kilogram roll of filament, and it's not going to fit in the CFS, right? So, or you have something that just in general doesn't fit in the CFS. You want to put it on the spool holder. So it's really great that you could just pop that in, and it's right on the side, so it's not on the back, which I know a lot of people, including myself, hate. So it's really cool that it's right on the side, and you can put it on. And there we go. Spool holder is now installed. So since we're already on the back, I figured this is a great place to pick up installing the CFS. We have perfect access to putting the buffer screw on there. There's actually a bag that is labeled buffer screw, so it's really simple. And let's go ahead and take out those screws. Strangely enough, it doesn't actually tell you where to install in the guide. It doesn't tell you where to install it, but you know, I see 2 screws, I see the positioning here. I'm almost positive it goes right over there. And because the Creality logo is facing upright, I believe it should go in this orientation. Now, if I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments, or I'm gonna probably find out very soon when something doesn't work correctly or fit correctly. Okay, so that's in now. Okay, so if you remember earlier, we had another packaging, and originally I thought it was the door, but it was actually the lid. And so what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna take this out because I'm gonna be resting the CFS on the top of the unit. So it is now time to unpackage this. Okay, just like that. Take off the plastic, and you're gonna put this right at the top. Okay, before we get started on installing the CFS any further, I just actually wanted to illustrate some maintenance enhancements here. You know, with the Bambu Lab AMS, I really hated the fact that I always had to open up, take out the filament, open up the bottom tray, and you know, in order to get access, and it was really not easy. It was a real pain. What I love about this is take a look how the tubes are now accessible through the bottom of the unit. If anything is even trickier, you could take out additional screws over here. So that is really impressive, and I really like what they did here. I think this is going to definitely make any kind of clogs much easier to remove. And now for a look inside the unit, you can see over here they have 2 holders for desiccant packets. You will want to remove these because right now they are in plastic casing. So you're going to want to open these up, put them back in, and put the lid back on. I do love the fact that these are standing up. They should be a lot easier and gives a little bit more flexibility, I guess, for the filament to be pulled into the tube. A couple of other things worth noting in here. You're going to have these little levers here to push to get the filament to come through. They look really easy to do, so that's nice. One thing I will say about the cover, when you're trying to put in your desiccant packets, they are in there pretty tight. I actually needed to use an Allen wrench to kind of push down on that lid to kind of pop it out, so just be careful. And most importantly, you have to watch out for you cannot put TPU in there. You can't put PVA, BVOH. I think that's an extra large filament spool, and this one just says don't put lopsided filament in there. I think that's a given, but just in case you're insane and you you want to do wacky things, don't do that wacky thing of putting in a filament roll where one side of the filament is much wider than the other filament. Okay, opening these up are really easy. These latches just push back and forth like that, and so you just have them on both sides. Okay, so now let's resume with installing the cabling. We have a Creality 485 cable, 100 centimeters over here. It's going to go into the right port, which is located right over here. Okay, and so we're going to connect one end into here. And make note that they say this is not hot swappable, so do not disconnect this while the unit is live. That is not a smart idea, according to what they wrote here. So, okay, the next one is going to go over there, and we're going to go ahead and just connect that. And at this time, we are now going to take this and lift it up, and we're gonna work on the connecting this to the buffer. Okay, so now for the buffer cable, we're gonna put the one that comes at a 90-degree angle. We're gonna put it in just like this. Okay, and then on the left side over here, on the left port, if you're facing it from behind, again, you're going to connect that right in. Okay, so now the buffer cable is now installed. Okay, the next step is to connect the PTFE tube short. Now this is going to go from the left side of the buffer and up into the actual printer over here, the main input over there. Now just something to be aware of is that there is actually another bag here, and you would connect this cable, this PTFE tube from here to there, but this one is now going to be occupied because we're going to be using the buffer. So at times, if you want to use both, you're just going to have to disconnect it from up here, and then you can switch between which one you want to pull from. Okay, so put that in like that, and we'll put this one in like this. Okay. And there you go. Now, another thing that I think is just so cool about this is that unlike other multicolor systems, you typically would have a ton of PTFE tubes just flying all over the place. One coming this way, for all, all four of them would be coming out and going into things. And we've seen that on the Anycubic, we've seen that on the Bambu, but here with Creality and the CFS, they actually have only one. And that brings us to the next step, which is the PTFE tube long bag. And what you'll notice over here is we're going to be connecting it to the first spot on the buffer. There it is. And we're going to go ahead and plug it right on that the first one right there. Okay, not on the inside, on the outside. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to connect this just right up over here. And that is it. You're not connecting up any more PTFE tubes beyond this point. So now everything is ready to go, which that's just so clean and so easy. I'm just so excited to see how the system actually plays out. I mean, so far, I'm just very impressed on some of the improvements that they definitely have done over other multicolor systems there. I think it's worth noting they also have an Ethernet jack on there as well. So very cool. And then here you have your poop chute. Okay, so just some things of note. You do have a USB drive over here if you want to just put in a thumb drive into the unit. And you also have this RFID sensor over here. So this is going to likely be for reading RFID chips that are in the filament. Similar to Bambu Lab, they are clearly putting in these RFIDs that will be able for the system to automatically detect what filament you're using. So that's kind of cool. And that's right here on the side. I'm assuming that there's also an RFID sensor inside the CFS because obviously this is probably here more for the spool holder version, and then inside the CFS you probably have its own independent RFID sensor. All right, so here we are, we turned it on, the CFS is up. You'll notice over here we have temperature, we have humidity. This is not an active dryer, so keep that in mind. Another thing I do want to bring to your attention is that when the screen boots up, please understand it takes a little bit of time, sometimes about 30 seconds or so. There's nothing wrong with the unit, it just takes a little time to boot up, I've noticed that. But anyway, very impressed with that LCD screen. Really cool to be able to see what that humidity is inside of the machine. All right, so taking a step back. All right, so we're gonna choose English. Okay, and remove the 4 screws A, B, and C, and D according to your thing. We did this already, that was in the first step. We're gonna go ahead and hit next. All right, so make sure that everything inside is clear of debris. We already removed everything, so yeah, we're gonna hit next. We have the privacy policy. We'll go ahead and hit next. Okay, and now is the time for you to set up your Wi-Fi. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so now we're moving on to our time zone settings. All right, so we'll go ahead and pop that in. Okay, and now it is time to bind it to our Creality account. Time to scan our code, and we have it right over there. And sure, let's go ahead, just name device, hit done, and default upon sure. Let's just do okay. Okay, and now please do not touch the printer when detecting. The whole process will take about 15 minutes. Okay, so we're just gonna let that go for about 15 minutes, I guess. Now, as for this screen, we could probably move forward and place the printing platform. The self-check process is expected to take about 16 minutes. At this stage, we're just going to proceed and hit next. Double check that nothing is inside there, and we're going to go ahead and just not touch anything. Okay, now that the self-check is complete, we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And sure enough, there is a new version available. So we are going to go ahead and download it, and we're going to upgrade the firmware. And after this is done, I am going to advise everybody that they should do another recalibration, because I think that's really the best thing to do once you do a firmware update. Okay, so as you can see now, the upgrade has been finished, and sure enough, they tell you you're gonna go ahead and please recalibrate before starting any printing. So we're gonna definitely do that. We're gonna select both the input shaping and the auto leveling, and it's gonna do this process again for another 15 minutes. So let's go ahead and begin. And again, it's gonna proceed. So let's let it do its thing, and then we'll move on. This is now done. We are now ready to go. Okay, so now that we've calibrated everything, I think it's time for us to load up our filament. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is open up the CFS, and we're gonna start putting in our filament. So I'm just going to take my filament like so, drop it in, put it in the tube. Oh my God, it just grabs it. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so we're gonna just let it do its thing. Interesting. Okay, I guess it's seeing if it likes it. And this is what I want to show you. Take a look at this. How over here it automatically detected PLA and blue. So that's pretty cool. That's from the RFID. All right, so we're going to do that with the red. Okay, so all of them are now loaded up. We're going to close the lid. We're going to lock it up here. Okay, and now let's take a look at how everything looks on our interface. That is amazing. Take a look at that. All the colors completely ready to go. So that's it. We're all set. Wow. That is just amazing. So I thought it would be a good idea to go through some of the sections here. So over here you have the settings menu, and the first tab here is access and temperature. So this is like moving everything manually, etc. You have your filament section, which we saw earlier, where we can load up and define what filament is on what section. Here it's auto detected because of the RFID. We could go to print settings, and this is where you have some of these additional advanced features: AI detection for abnormalities, auto PA calibration, flow ratio calibration, waste chute inspection, and then printing pause due to faults. I figured, yes, if there's a fault, maybe we should stop printing, right? So I'm gonna try this out and see how it comes out. They do have two different sections here though. They have conventional, which detects every 25 seconds and identify prominent issues. And then there's professional, which increases the detection frequency and can reveal minor problems. So we're going to go with the conventional, and we'll see how that plays out. Then you also, again, if you move your printer or you do anything, or there's a future firmware and they instruct you to recalibrate, you could go over here and check off input shaping or auto leveling and start the detection again. So that's what that is. Here is where you can load up your models. So you could get it either from the local hard drive, or you could go from a USB drive, if you know, the one that's on the side, and then you could also print from your history. You also have over here some general account preference, such as screen brightness, etc. You have your network settings, system settings over here, such as firmware updates and things like that. So, and then last but not least, you have this little guy over here, and I think this is really more for like exporting logs or uploading faults and errors to Creality. Here are some error codes on the error history, and then a QR code for the wiki. So if we now take a look, we're gonna go ahead and proceed with starting with a Benchy. We're gonna choose this 14-minute Benchy, and I'm gonna choose over here to do this in blue so we can actually see it really well. So we're gonna do blue colored Benchy, and we're gonna enable the CFS, yes, and we're gonna also do calibration, yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit print, and let's see what happens. Now, since we're printing in PLA, something to keep in mind is that we're going to leave the door open here. And we're doing that because there is such a thing as having too much heat, and it's not good for the for the print. And so if you have too much heat, it's not going to give you the best quality. So something I just wanted to show you over here is, remember I enabled that flow calibration pattern printing and AI detection settings? Well, look what it created on both sides. It created two different types of patterns here. And then basically what ends up happening is the camera that's on the extruder kind of comes out and then starts scanning these to see if they're okay. Now it's going through the process of scanning, and you can see it's scanning that print that it just made. And assuming this is all said and done, then it's gonna proceed and make the print. This is a lot of extra prep work before your print gets started. So I would definitely say this eats in somewhere about another 5 minutes, give or take, of extra calibration. So I can now see why some people would just kind of leave this off, and maybe you do it one time and then maybe it just holds it for a while after that. I don't know. But I would definitely say, I don't know if I would do this on every small print that's here. Okay, Benchy analysis time. So let's take a look. So essentially, this is the one from the K2 Plus. This is the one that is with the CFS. So 4 colors, 1 color. I was very, very happy with the results. Very minor stringing, really good quality overall. No major issues that I could see at all. Very, very minor. Like I think the only thing here is like this little imperfection here. You know, comparing it to perfection, like for example, if I'm looking at the MK4S, you'll see there is absolutely nothing. Just kind of overhangs perfectly over there. No issue whatsoever. But when we look at the P1P, you could see that handles it even worse on the P1P than on the K2 Plus. Both have the same kind of an issue, but this actually has less imperfection. But overall, very, very happy with the results. I would definitely say that on the Benchy, it really holds its own, and it looks like this is a nice, solid competitor to the industry. So kudos to Creality for this. But now the question is, how is it going to look as we get into much larger prints? And so we're going to print the Spider-Man helmet, and then maybe another piece that's also very large, and then take another look. All right, guys, we're here in Creality Print 5.1. I really think these guys have come a long way. Their slicer looks fantastic, very easy to use. Love the big icons on the top here. Very familiar with many of these from Bambu Studio, Orca Slicer, Prusa Slicer. They also have the ability to add plates, just as you would expect in all the other slicers now. And then if you expand this further out, you'll notice that they have your more detailed settings here, such as quality and strength and speed and support and other, and you have advanced settings as well. I love the fact that when this thing comes out, it kind of makes these icons a little bit smaller so they don't completely disappear on you. They want your experience to be easy to read and easy to look at. So once you minimize something, those icons now get bigger. I think that's really smart. Anyway, in terms of adding your printers, I found that for whatever reason, even though I was logged in, I still had to add my printer in here. And to do that, it was relatively easy. I just hit scan and it just found it, popped it in. I clicked add. I was done. So very easy. As you can see right now, it found my printer, It's currently working on a Benchy, and here I wanted to get started with an STL file, so I chose the Spider-Man helmet from Yosh Studios. I did want to just kind of do a quick comparison and see how long it would take. So I actually sliced it, and I got the results over here. It says the printing time is only 15 hours and 26 minutes and 14 seconds, and the material weight would only be 366 grams. Basically, that's pretty good, but as a basis of comparison, I wanted to see what that is in Bambu Studio with the P1P. Now, understand I chose here 0.20 standard. Other than that, the only thing I'm doing is the tree support, and I didn't adjust anything else. When I do go into Bambu Studio, interestingly, came in here and all I did again was change the support. But for whatever reason, this is gonna take 22 hours and 28 minutes. And it does say it's gonna actually use more filament. I'm not sure exactly why, but it says it's gonna use more. So that might be a part of why it's increasing. But you know, if you look at the orientation of the helmet, I laid both of them on the same face. And as far as I could tell, they look very, very similar in terms of where they're putting supports, and yet there's a huge difference, over a 7-hour, almost 8-hour difference between these two completing. Now again, this is only in the slicer, so of course in real world, it could be very different, but right now they're telling me that this is 8 hours faster than if I would have done it on the Bambu. So I find that to be really interesting and awesome if it ends up to be true, because that means that this thing is either more optimized or tuned in and can actually get this print done faster. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and send this to the printer. I'm gonna go ahead and hit print plate, and I'm gonna choose the printer. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna choose the red. Do we wanna do the print calibration? Sure, we'll do print calibration. And now you have send and print. I think this would just send it to the printer. This one would actually print it. So I'm actually going to hit print, and let's see what happens. Oh, there it goes. So now it's sending to the printer over here, and as soon as that's done, the printer should begin. And we'll see what we have in about 15 hours. I'm going to take a look at this, and I may even do one more print above this as well, just to go even higher, because I really want to see if I'm going to end up with that Z-banding. I know that's a big hang-up for me and a big hang-up for a lot of people, and I would actually like to see what that's going to look like on some of these prints. Now, one thing I did want to just clarify, and something that I do wish that did exist in Creality print, and I hope one day that they create, is the auto orient capability. Now originally I looked over here and I saw that they had auto layout and allow auto rotation for auto layout, but they don't have auto orient. And auto orient is just like where the slicer figures out the best way to orient your piece. I mean, for example here, if I were to rotate this piece like so, and okay, so this is obviously not ideal, at least I don't think it's ideal, and I would then normally click on an auto orient, but as you can see over here, that just kind of moves it more like to the center. So it will bring it to the center and lay them out if I have multiple, but it's not going to actually place this in such a way that it will be ideal for printing. With that being said, you are limited just to placing it on certain faces, like so. And this is the same with Prusa Slicer also, who does have it for resin, but doesn't have it for FDM printing. So just something I wanted to bring to your attention. So since we've gone through the Benchy comparison tests and I've showed you the Creality slicing software, I thought it would be a great time for us to try this out on some larger prints, and also to see whether or not that Z-banding issue that other people have reported is actually present or not. So I went to Yosh Studios and I downloaded this model of a Spider-Man helmet, and wow, look at the results. I am so impressed. This is really, really amazing. I mean, just look at the texture and the detail on the print. I'm just really blown away. So definitely this came out just amazing. And also there's no Z-banding. So, at first I said to myself, well, maybe it's because of the texture. So I said, all right, let's go with something smoother. So I went over to Droid Division and I decided to download one of their models called Space Bob Huge Robot, otherwise known as the Iron Giant. And I 3D printed it and take a look. Perfect. No Z-banding at all. So it really came out flawlessly. I mean, I'm so impressed with this print. I then went ahead and I said to myself, you know what? I'm kind of curious how this compares against the Bambu Lab P1P. And so I went ahead and I printed one on the P1P, which is over here, and one over here, and just look at the difference. I mean, they're basically the same. The quality is just perfect. So I have to say this is a major win for the K2 Plus. I'm really happy with the results. They both came out fantastic, and I'm happy to report that I do not see any Z-banding. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe this was fixed with a firmware update, or possibly the fact that maybe some of the experiences that people had was because it was just more machine specific, or maybe a bad early batch. But I'm happy to report that my printer does not have any Z-banding, and I got really great prints off of it. There is a lot to wrap up here with today, but in short, Creality absolutely hit it out of the park with the K2 Plus combo. This is a fantastic printer, and it's definitely a major contender in today's 3D printing landscape. Now, I got amazing quality out of the prints that I ran off of this. Quality was great, the speed was great, the setup was super simple, and as soon as I finished the firmware update and I ran through the calibration, right out of the box I was getting great prints. And that's exactly what you expect today out of a modern 3D printer. Now, I really do believe that Creality has learned a lot over the last few years. I know that for many, the K1 releases like the K1 and the K1 Max had definitely mixed reviews when they first came out. And I think that they took that opportunity to learn from that, and this is the byproduct. It's definitely by far up there with some of the best 3D printers I've ever had the opportunity to review this year. So let me go and talk a little bit about some of the features that really stood out for me. First and foremost, obviously, is the build size. 350 cubed is huge, and it allows me to print things so much larger than I'm used to. I think what's even better is the fact that it's coupled with the ability for multicolor printing. So using their CFS, they allow you to basically load up 4 rolls of filament, which is nothing new. That's been the standard lately. But I think that their CFS does it so much better than the competition. For example, on the AMS, I always had jams and clogs, but I had to dismantle the entire unit to get to those clogs. Here, they've actually thought about accessibility for maintenance, and I could see the tubes are right there. I haven't had any clogs yet, but I know that I can get to them super easily. I love the fact that it grabbed my filament right away. There was no friction on it, just grabbed it, and it was just a much more pleasant experience than I've had with the AMS. The only thing close to that is the experience I had on the Cobra 3. But on the Cobra 3, I had 4 PFTE tubes coming out of it, where here it's consolidated into 1 PFTE tube. But to be fair, one thing that the Cobra 3 does have on the Ace Pro is the fact that it is an active dryer. So always something to improve upon, right? But ultimately, it just works really well, and I'm very happy with it. The calibration part was everything that I expected. It was really all automated. And I was really intrigued by the dual AI camera, and I don't know if that's what got me these amazing prints. And if it did, one question I would have for the K2 Plus community is this something that you have to run every time you print? I hope not, because it took a long time for it to go ahead and print out those patterns and then scan them.
Hopefully, they're more like input shaping that you do it one time and then you don't have to do it again for a while. In terms of the software, they made major improvements in their Creality print software. It's definitely much more user-friendly and user-intuitive. There are definitely things that I wish it did have. For example, auto-orient, to auto-orient the object onto the plate isn't there, and definitely something I wish they will have in a future release. I also found the fact that I could pair my 3D printer in the mobile app, but it didn't show up when I synced my desktop app with my online profile. So I would have expected to see my printer in there, but I had to just add it, and it was easy. I just added it and it showed up, and that was it. Obviously something for them to fix, and probably an easy bug fix. Aside from that, I would say maybe to improve the user interface on the mobile app. But as you can see here, I'm really just nitpicking at this point. It's a great printer. I really don't have anything negative to say about it, and I think it's a great value add for anyone who's in 3D printing. You can buy this today for $14.99 directly from Creality, and I'm going to put a link in the description below. Who is this meant for? Well, basically, I would say everyone and anyone. I could see beginners using it, intermediate and advanced users, all benefiting from the K2 Plus combo. Now, with that being said, in terms of environments, absolutely, I could see this in a makerspace. I could see this definitely in a school environment where you want to get larger prints and you don't want to sacrifice on multicolor capability. But additionally, it's also great for your home use as well. And if you're a maker or into props, this is going to be a fantastic printer. One thing that's also great about it is that it's super silent and it barely makes any noise, which is fantastic. Anyway, I hope you liked the review, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy printing.